Welcome to Merkaba Chakras, where we talk Buddhism in the fifth dimension.
Welcome to another podcast episode of Merkaba Chakras. I'm your host, Von Galt, and today we talk to Intuitive Astrologist Louisa Tanner Munson, who reads her clients' possible future timelines. If you don't know what your probable future options are, you can still change it. Plus, we talk about the role of metaphysical moms and 5D parents who help their children harness their sixth senses in this new processional cycle on Earth. So, Earth is cooking with the new beginnings of the XMen of the fifth dimension. So, metaphysical parents, this episode is for you. So, with that, Louisa, welcome to Merkaba Chakras.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yes, it's going to be a fun one. I love your work. So before we get into your work, can you please tell the audience your story for how you even got into this in the first place?
Ooh, well, as a child, I felt things and heard things and saw things that other people didn't see. And I was told it was all a load of rubbish and it wasn't real. And throughout my teens, I still heard things and still saw things and energies and stuff. And I'd also learned about astrology by then, that it was a possibility. I was also interested in hypnotherapy, and I did all my usual studies at school, but at the same time started studying astrology behind the scenes. I was a bit embarrassed to talk about it because my parents wanted me to get a normal job. And
What's a normal job in
well,
the UK?
yeah, I think they just wanted me to work for a company that had long
Uh-huh.
prospects, like in a bank or something like that. And um, but yeah, astrology grabbed me, and I didn't go and work in a bank straight away. I went and lived and worked in France, like living on campsites and being quite free.
Mm.
But astrology was always in the background. And when I did move back to the UK, in my mid-20s, I did do some insurance work and banking work, and worked as a trainer and a coach, which I loved. And then behind the scenes, carried on studying astrology and NLP and hypnosis and timeline therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I just did it as a hobby, just offered it out to people, and helped heal people and stuff. And then around 35, when I was living in Bali, I started to do it for donations, and then started charging for it. And then just over this last 10 years or so, I've just started my own consultancy. So I kind of put myself through an apprenticeship. And as I got older, I just got less happy to have a normal job.
Mm.
And I got more confident to just say, no, this is me. And it's okay to be an intuitive. It's completely fine to be an intuitive in the modern world. So it was kind of because I just didn't feel comfortable with my identity, knowing how a lot of people are towards intuitives. So
And
it
we
only got a bit braver.
yeah. So that's a very common thing because there is that stigma of being woo woo and not
Yeah,
being
not being
centered or yeah, like are you a little bit crazy or did you lose all your marbles, that all of that kind of talk. And what I found is most of that is self-projected. Most people for the most part are really curious about your unique skill, and whether it comes true or doesn't come true, or it resonates, doesn't resonate, they're still kind of curious about it. So
yeah.
there's 8 billion people in the world, and you're not interested in talking to 8 billion, or will you ever have the ability to? So you can attract the people that you want to attract and engage with.
Mm.
So what is it about that stigma that holds a lot of people with these unique talents back from offering it to the world? Because the world is quite large of a petri dish.
Yeah, I think it's fear of ridicule, which, like, when you
Mm,
get the other side of it and you realize there's nothing to fear, it
right.
seems really kind of sort of like just not an issue at all.
Mm-hmm.
However, you know, when you're in the grasp or the grip of Western society as it looks from the outside, it looks like if you'll be rejected from your friends, your family. So I think it might be rejection.
And where do you think that stems from? Is that
I
kind of religious thing that it stems from? That
don't know.
fear of
I didn't grow up in a religious household,
mm,
though I did come across religious people who said, "Oh, you're obviously the work of the devil. You know, the devil's
they still
obviously alive."
believe in that?
Yeah, someone encouraged me to burn my books. You know, a family member. You know, not my immediate family. But I went to a technical grammar school, and so a lot of the people that I went to school with believe in science and believe this, that, and the other, and they
Yeah.
astrology. What do you want about psychic powers? Were, you know. But you know, over the years, I've just met so many really cool people, and like you do gravitate, you do find your tribe, and they find you. And yeah, I mean, I never really wanted to be a popular person anyway. You know, I wasn't the
Mm-hmm.
kind of school who had like tons of friends. I was the one
Right.
doing drawings and things. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I
the desire to help other people, you know, when you know you've got a skill that can help people get through an issue, and that you've used it yourself,
mm-hmm.
um, then I think the need to help others comes forward and it pushes you forward, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's a really good point. And I tell this too because a lot of my clients have I do sixth sense consultations, and they also have unique skills and interests in various modalities as well. But self-confidence is something that many of them are challenged about, and they want to do this either as a side thing or they want to do it just for fun as an interesting skill that they have, etc. So they have various reasons, but
Mhm.
the fear of being ridiculed and not being able to balance their metaphysical interests with maybe the professional interests and not be marginalized for that is a big fear that for the most part, most people don't really care. And the people who do care, you don't care for them. So,
I actually think a lot of like 20 somethings are actually going to do a lot for this kind of industry because people they've grown up with the internet, they've grown up with
mhm,
people liking you or not liking you, and they've grown up needing to have quite hard, tough shells and to realize that a lot of it just doesn't matter. It's just superfluous. So I think we've laid the groundwork for this next generation to rise up and really embody who they are. Just
yes, yes.
the early indigos, you know, like I know quite a few exceptional like 70 and 80-year-olds who have always been healers, and who've always like worked with crystals or tones and things like that. So I just think we are legion. You know, we're growing and people are
Yeah.
just more accepting of themselves now. I think it's good, but self-confidence, yeah, you're right, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Yeah, I know before we started this, we were talking like the business element of metaphysical business, offering a metaphysical offering or service to the public, whatever it is. And there's so many different aspects of because you have the metaphysical talent or modality in which you offer to people, and then there's
Mhm.
a lot of business elements to it too, like how does your website going? How are you going to charge? What is the limit for the hourly? How are you going to make a webinar or training course material? How are you going to make books? I mean, just are you going to do a podcast? I mean, just it just expands and expands and expands, and and so it does become quite a bit of a venture, and always fun because you love doing it. It's your fun metaphysics that you love doing. And with the world being much more open to online consultations, you can get the best intuitive astrologist from Portugal anywhere in the world. You could be in Hong Kong, you could be in China, you can be the US. So you don't even need anybody in your specific country who may be poo-pooing your offering because the rest of the world is interested and they'll book you up very, very easily. So that's
Yeah.
one of the things I really want the audience members to know because they go through my library of podcast interviews, and a majority of people are making an offering. They're offering a service to the
Yeah.
public and they're teaching it to the public. And so
Mhm.
that because the interest has grown and they can't keep up with the demand, and so they want to teach it to other students who can use it and offer it in their services and in their side business or whatever they want to do with it. And so there's so many different ways in which you can take this to the very, very next level. And it's very respected because I know for myself, I have clients who come to me for hypnosis or even just for sixth sense consultations because there's no one that consults
Yeah.
from a Buddhist perspective on parallel realities, multiverses, and consciousness. And so, you know, they have gone through mental health and counselors and spent, you know, $20,000, $30,000, and I'm not interested in wasting their time. 2 sessions, get through your stuff, send you on your way until the next sixth sense comes up. Hit me up. I'm
Yeah.
moving on to the next person. They're like, that was wonderful. That saves so much time. And I said, yeah, you're welcome. Good luck. So because there's so much demand in and people coming into these skills. And so this again is another one of those modalities because in Asia, astrology is very respected. And the other parts of the world it still may be foreign to them. So
Yeah.
Louisa, you have the ability to read possible future timelines for your clients that we've been discussing. So
Yeah.
and people use these possible future timelines to empower themselves. So what are the most common future timelines for humanity that you see in your clients?
Well, I'm quite lucky. I attract quite open-minded, quite healing, kind of beyond the veil type clients. So I see a lot of enlightening and awakening moments in their future timelines. Um, so right now, a lot of my clients that I'm working with seem to be on an upward trajectory. They're
Mm,
always, everything seems to be working out really nicely for them. So
mm.
a lot of the people, the more regularly I'm working with people, the more I'm seeing that they're having an uplift of energy. And that's been going on really since the start of this COVID phenomenon. Um,
You
you
know, it's
know,
so funny that you say that because I just did a book interview and the podcast host was like, "How could you say 2020 was a wonderful year for many people? It was a horrible year for many people." And I'm like, "What frequency are you at?" Because all the high vibe people are like, "It's way abundant." So they
yeah,
had a
I mean,
great year.
yeah, for
Their
sure.
new energies make it so easy. So
I mean, a lot of the people I'm working with are doing really, really well right now, and
yeah.
the things that have held them back previously seem to be falling away. So all I can, like,
Like
as
what are the things that your clients were working with previously that are falling away in these
um,
higher energies?
what I'm noticing is people right now, the people I'm working with are moving to where they need to be. So they're shifting location. They're moving to be with the people they should be with. So they're shifting from relationships. I had lots and lots of relationship inquiries, with
Ah,
shifting out of their old paradigm relationships.
mhm,
And it's in particular the women who are sensing the change and needing the change, and their guys either couldn't keep up or it was just time to leave. And some of them actually started to work together. So there are different
mm,
outcomes
mhm,
according to couples, but there was definitely a lot of relationship shifting. um, and then there's
mm,
career success. There's a lot of people realizing that they can design the career that they want on their own
mhm,
skills. So there's a lot of people um, suddenly coming online, realizing that who they are, they can earn a living from and feel safe being themselves. So it's been
mhm.
really magical, like exploring this with them at the same time as I'm kind of doing that myself as well. So
Yeah, that's really good. I like to hear that because I like to
yeah,
hear that. I mean, just everybody's going to have their experience in Earth, and they're going to
yeah,
have the experience that matches their frequency. And you're getting high vibe clients that are wanting to go next level and
yeah.
manifest the next level in their existence. And
Mm.
I am as well as a lot of other high vibe practitioners of many, many different modalities are getting much the same thing. I'm hearing much the same
Yeah.
thing that 2020 was one of their best, more abundant years,
Mm.
although many other people struggled because they didn't catch up and
Yeah.
follow the changes that Earth's been saying for a long time.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, this didn't happen just by chance. A lot of the clients that I've been working with had been feeling the changes ahead of time.
Hmm.
Um, and like we skipped out of the UK like 3.5 years ago because we
Hmm.
felt that something big was about to happen and that our freedoms might be curtailed. and both my husband and I work online. Obviously, if we can't work online, we might have a few problems, but we were already connecting with all our clients around the world before it hit. So when it hit, and we're homeschooling our children, and we also grow lots of vegetables from home.
So you were like preparing yourself, and you didn't know what you're preparing yourself for. It was
yeah,
almost like,
yeah, we knew kind of the feeling that was coming, but we didn't know exactly how it was going to hit, but we were sure it's going to happen. And a lot of our like my parents in particular were saying, oh, you don't need to do all that, just get a normal job. Like when I said no, I feel like we need to kind of be a little bit more to ground, working online. They couldn't quite understand it. And I still don't know if they do, but but I know people who have kind of prepared themselves. They've hit the ground running. They already had their podcasts sorted, or already the sort of channels of communication, and yeah, it's kind of gone quite smoothly.
yeah, that's really good to hear. I like to hear that. So, the possible future timelines that you see for humanity, they're uplift, but like, is there certain characteristics of this lifted reality that you see for many of your clients? Can you tell us some of the things to look
Well,
forward
yeah, because
to?
also I have worked with a few people in hypnosis as well, and
Mm-hmm.
also worked on my own hypnosis. So some people are seeing a very sort of technologically advanced civilization where
Mm-hmm.
things are just really abundant. That
Mm-hmm.
the whole nature of the universe is abundance.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who does fermenting or who loves growing plants knows that, because like every
Yeah.
plant, like fruiting plants, for instance, they produce so many seeds. If you get the environment right, it keeps
Yeah.
on going. You don't need to do
Mm-hmm.
much. And it's the same with everything. We just don't realize we've been taught that we're in a scarce society and we've got to fight for everything. It's just not true. It's just how it's been set. So
Yeah.
I think there's a possibility for something very sort of technologically advanced, but not the kind of technology that we know, but a kind of organic technology that works. Well, I can't quite put my fingers on it, but it's like an etheric technology, almost
Mm-hmm.
like it's coming from us.
Mm-hmm.
We have new ways of organizing things, but that's not just right now. That's a little bit, way off. But I do also see that there is. Um, do you know the work of Dolores Cannon?
I
You've
do.
probably
I do.
yes.
I do. That's one of the modalities of hypnosis that I do.
Oh, okay.
So I'm
Well,
familiar.
I know quite a few of her practitioners actually, and she obviously speaks of the bifurcation. Like the world splitting in two, and so according to your vibration, you kind of go to the world that suits you the most. And so I don't get too many clients who are like wanting to stay with the kind of society that we've got, but there are so many people that actually think that what's going on right now is completely normal, and we will
Or,
continue
yeah,
down that.
cocooning. Or
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, but the timelines I'm seeing are actually going into awakening, and then like a time of golden years. A time of where anything becomes possible, and that the freer your mind is, the more you can create, and that
mm-hmm.
the time needed for us to create becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, so that we're in kind of 0 point energy. We think it and it manifests.
Mm-hmm. That's the
And so
definition of the fifth dimension.
it's
that's,
very
this podcast is Buddhism in the fifth dimension, because Buddhism, the word Bud in Sanskrit just means to awake within the matrix, the
Is that it?
holographic nature. That's what Bud means. Bud, Budh for Buddha. Means a
Wow.
person who is awake within the matrix, the holographic matrix, and because they're awake within the matrix, they know that their consciousness, is what creates the outer physical reality. Knock knock. And because they create the outer physical reality, they know that these avatars that we embody are just for the roles in which we are playing in this version of the game, in this aspect of the game in which consciousness is experiencing through us.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
but that's the definition of a Bud. And when you are awake within the matrix and you understand that everything is energy,
Mm.
um, and if you are present in the higher dimensions, that everything exists now, which is a fifth dimension and higher understanding of reality, you are in connection with source. And
Yes.
source has no times or linearity. Everything exists now. So it's just a matter of where in the multiverse experience do you want to pick from and experience now?
Yes.
It's all around. Which one? Take a focus.
I mean,
So
it's
that.
great working with people in hypnosis, isn't it? Because you can take
Mhm,
them, like a lot of people talk about past life regression, but I
mhm.
think future life progression is,
More
it's there.
empowering.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to say it's not happening at the same time. It's like you're saying, they're all existing in the same potential.
Yeah, it's just one big reality is a bubble in Buddhism. That's why we always have the mandalas.
Wow.
Reality is a bubble. And so if reality is a bubble, future, the past, the in between, all of that is existing within in the bubble. It just depends on where you're gonna look.
I love that.
So, but I love your what you're getting from your clients
Mm.
because I get this from my clients too, where they have an issue with overabundance and how do they focus? How do they focus? How do they organize? How do they take it to the next level? And so
Mhm.
they'll connect with source, or I'll give them recommendations based off of previous clients who have similar challenges, just to give them ideas. And they're like, "Oh my goodness, I came up with so many ideas," and now it's I need to focus on where to start. So it's the clients that I have and that you have seem to have an overabundance issue
Mm.
of easy ways in which to take their life and their experiences and creations to the next level. If they if when you're doing astrology, if they do happen to go into like a past astrology, is that just for healing so they know not to repeat certain life lessons that have cropped
Mm.
up so they don't repeat it in the future? Is what is the purpose of that you see?
Well, it really depends on the client. So, for instance, some of my Dolores Cannon friends, the people who trained in her technology, where they've experienced their past and they know the dates of their birth, I've looked at their past previous dates of birth and drawn up their
Mhm.
birth chart and also done the future ones.
Yeah.
Or, for instance, if they know they're in Atlantis or if they know their previous name, there are over 10,000 asteroids that are named.
Mhm.
So I find like there's an asteroid called Atlantis. There is one to do with Lyra. There is like lots of different asteroids. So I put their asteroids into their birth charts as well. And
Mhm.
basically, I think that when you use asteroids in a birth chart, the birth chart itself becomes multi-dimensional because the same birth chart
Ooh.
you read in thousands of different ways. You just take out the asteroids you don't want and you put in the ones that you do. So I can read the same birth chart and you say, okay, um, I want the new book release chart version of me. And I put in something about your new book release and boom, there it is. And I can read it. In fact, I've got a client who is an author and he's written hundreds, well, not hundreds, but I don't know, about 20 or 30 books, and,
Uh-huh.
and he's awesome. And on a monthly basis, he gives me some of the themes that he's hoping to write about,
Mhm.
and I put them into his progress chart. And his new chapter is evolving through the reading. And so I send it back to him. He says, "That's what I was thinking." Yes. And then he fleshes it out. So we're kind of co-creating a book together, though it's really his. But you can use astrology in so many different ways now. And
Mhm.
yeah, so we have gone into the past, and yeah, to answer your question, it's mainly for healing and
That passes for healing. Okay.
and to learn from the patterns as well. So it's not just about
Mhm.
healing,
Yeah.
making sure we're going to do the same mistakes again. It's about getting it right and also recognizing the people on our journey because a lot of them have had the same partners or friends around them,
Yeah.
and so we
Soul
use that
groups.
exactly.
Mhm.
And so we can see, where those relationships are going and how well they are. But not all of my clients are that experimental. I've got a few that are. Um, but yeah, it's good fun. It
I
just
like
becomes
that.
investigation.
Yeah, well, you guys, a little bit later, in a little bit, we're going to do a mini session on myself and look at my birth chart and my future astrology from Luis's experience, just to give you an idea of what one session is like for her. And if you want to learn from her, because she is teaching it, we'll go over that details in a little bit. So, because I love to learn, and I know a lot of the audience members love to learn something new as well. So,
Yeah.
what does astrology say about how consciousness factors into shifting into the most ideal, probable future timelines for people?
I think we can learn from our mistakes. Like how we were talking about how we heal from the past. Like, for instance, we're coming into a time where Pluto's about to change signs. and Neptune will be changing signs in the next few years. Now, the outer planets if you think of the solar system, the planets closest to Earth are always, we call these the personal planets. And
Mm-hmm.
so their positions in our charts describe our personal traits, like
Mm-hmm.
our instincts, our behaviors and stuff like that. And then the outer planets like Uranus, Neptune and Pluto, we call those the outer consciousness planets, because
Right.
we never really get to grips with their meaning. They bring in something from the universe or the multiverse, or however
Mm-hmm.
you want to consider it. They bring in something kind of obscure, like Pluto brings in issues of control, and power, and resurrection, but usually with quite a lot of pain involved, because humans are so stubborn, aren't they? And me included. We have to make our lives really hard for ourselves before we learn the lesson. And so we often like collapse in a heap when we've got a big Pluto thing going on, and then we yield to it and kind of allow it to flow through us, and then we kind of resurrect in our own form, in a new, stronger form. And so Pluto brings us those opportunities. And then we've got Neptune and Uranus. Now, these three planets, they're very slow moving. And so they give us, their positions in astrology give us the template for different generations. And so, we know that last time Pluto was in Aquarius coincided with the the storming of the Bastille in 1789.
Oh, okay.
France. So we're talking about the French Revolution. So we're getting at the same thing is coming around again. And so we can observe the patterns of what happened in the past, and we get a feeling for where it's going next time round. So it's the same themes, but just moved on. So if you think about the French Revolution, it's about liberty, equality, and fraternity. So brotherhood, sisterhood, freedom, and real balance. And it was a real reaction to the power that was doing everything to squash people. So this theme is coming up, and it's coming round because Pluto's moving into Aquarius in 2023. So that's only 2 years away. And you can see how that could be happening.
2023.
It's already starting to happen, isn't it?
October 14, 2023 is the next total solar eclipse in the United States.
Wow. There you go. That's the other thing.
So the paradigm shift, huh?
A lot of these things happen at the same time. And we've got Neptune going into Aries in 2025. The last time Neptune was in Aries was in 1875, and it coincided with a really sort of intense interest in spirituality and chemistry and drugs and things like that. So I'm not going to be surprised to see that medicine could be completely transformed and changed. Now, I can see two probable timelines. That one, it become very sort of Frankenstein's monster, and involve tons and tons and tons of we're going to do this to you, and gene technology.
Very 3D materialistic.
Exactly.
Physical.
Or it could be completely the other way, where we start to realize that we are our own medicine, and we start we've all heard of med beds, probably. I'm sure all of your listeners have heard of med beds. But my intuition, I don't know this for sure, but my intuition says there's a lot of humans already here that are their own med beds, that they know how to do it. They just don't know that they can do it. But at some point, it's all going to kick in, and we're going to come online. So what I've seen with my clients over this last year is they've been coming online to more of their talents, myself included. It's like in this last year, we felt more of ourselves embodied, almost like more of our light coming through, not entirely sure. And with that, we shine more. And I know that the groundwork is laid out in our DNA, and it's going to come into place. So I really think that's a possibility too. But with the Dolores Cannon, we are going to get the choice to choose which way we go.
Right. With the higher reality, because, like you said, with the two choices, and you always have a choice of higher or lower. And you're going to go to whatever resonates with you, or what, even if it doesn't resonate with you, if you want to go for the higher one, because it sounds more of a pleasant experience that you want to experience. Some people like the lower realities. They like the suffering. It sounds kind of archaic, but some people, that's what they find home is struggle and suffering and all that kind of stuff. It has to do with some childhood trauma, and maybe some unconscious behavior patterns that they picked up. But if they, but at some point they get to the point where they're tired of it and they want to reach out for the higher experiences. And
Yeah.
so those are always available to you. But
Yeah.
in terms of medicine for the higher reality, I just see it being more kind of a holistic approach
Mhm.
to wellness, not just your bodies, but your energy field, as understanding our energy fields are part of health. Vibration, resonance, your chakras. I mean, acupuncture is all based on just balancing your chakra points and the different kinetics in your body. So it very much almost a little Star Trekky,
Yeah.
all right, in terms of medicine, because there isn't a lot of cutting up of people or actually like 3D. They call it. I remember this episode of Star Trek. And they're like, "Oh, 21st century medicine is so archaic."
Yeah.
Because the higher, more advanced stuff, they know more about the body, that we're an energy being in a physical body, and the body is just a machine that's running off of the codes in the greater field that we are. So and
Mm.
then and I see that happening in medicine, and we evolve to that. So that's the higher version of reality, where it's more about you it's more about wellness and prevention. It's almost like I'm gonna go see a doctor now, and when you go there, it's almost like a spa experience.
That
It's like,
sounds
well,
wonderful. We do all
yeah,
we can to avoid the doctors. You know how some people go for a checkup, like, like they're ticking off a list of all the things that a good citizen does. They go to the doctors and they get that, we do everything we can to avoid them. We'll use them when we need them. Um,
yeah. Like I go to my doctors, I do my annual checkups and all that. And if something doesn't feel right, I'll go and just get a checkup just to see
yeah,
what the deal is.
yes,
And
exactly.
so they can look it over. And then of course ask for, well, what's the recommendation? And so I do my chiropractic, do my acupuncture, all that kind of stuff. Maybe have to eat a little bit less greasy food and put a little bit more, more
But
vegetables, et cetera. So it becomes a all-encompassing way in which I approach my health. And with the pandemic, I've been running around with mitigations and all that, like recommended, but I have unconsciously come across being in contact with people who did not know that they were actively COVID positive. And I've
really,
been hanging out and hugging them, and because they're
yeah,
been clean and all of that, and just innocently hanging out with people, and then they tell everybody a couple of days or whatever later when they become really active in it, and they go get tested to come back completely negative. So I wouldn't tell everybody just start not having any kind of mitigation, but I think as we learn more about contagious diseases and the common cold and flu and other things, that we'll learn more about how your energy field protects you. And the
yes,
higher your energy field, and the higher your frequency, um, that helps you with your immunity as well. So I think medicine in the near future will be learning a lot from these higher frequency individuals that, um, from their aura fields, it goes right into the cells in their body that is also functioning at much higher levels and not so easily susceptible.
yeah,
So I'm really interested to see what we find out from the COVID years, because we're putting so much emphasis into it,
yeah.
that we're going to learn so much more and grow from the information. And then, like you said, humans kind of like the hard knocks.
They really do. They really do. And
Right.
bless people that do. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
has
really
really hard time for a lot of people.
Yeah, but not everybody has to go through the hard knocks. Learn from the wisdom teachings. Learn from others' hard mistakes. If you don't want to experience that for yourself, you could always learn from others as well instead of doing it yourself. So, I do quantum hypnosis, and the Oversoul and Alien Collective that my Starseed clients have often talk in probability for giving options about future timelines. It's never just this is the finite future, there's probable options. So, do you see a probable future timeline or multiple ones for your clients? And I just want to preface to everybody, millionaires don't use astrologists, but billionaires do.
Definitely.
So,
I
so
I like to do storytelling with my clients. So a bit like probable options, I look at what's coming up for them. And, I'll be telling them, about what's coming up in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. And then we'll say, where do you see yourself being in 10 years or 20 years? And then we'll look at the probability of how likely they're going to be to get there, and
Mhm.
tell it as different stories. Because, if you go the 3D route, or the 5D, there's so many different ways of approaching things. And I
Mhm.
can usually see what will hold people back from achieving it. There's a wonderful asteroid that I use in astrology called Chiron, who's the wounded healer. He's known as being the wounded healer, and he shows us where our childhood wounds are, pretty much
Mhm.
without doubt. He also shows us how we become our own guru. And so it's a really awesome point in our charts to look at. And it comes up really strongly in the charts of healers and light
Mhm.
workers, and also doctors as well, because they are also healers,
Mhm.
and psychologists and stuff. And so I kind of give them the sort of stories. I give them a few different versions. So I never really just see two, I see quite a few. And then as we're talking, I'm aware of, which one they're favoring. And then all of a sudden their timeline seems a bit clearer. If that,
Mhm.
I feel almost like we're co-creating their timelines.
Mhm.
I'm like a travel guide, kind of showing them, you can go
Yeah,
here or
kind of like
here.
a school counselor, giving
Yeah,
them
yeah,
some
a bit like a guidance counselor.
guidance counselor. That's really good. So, like, what, how do you typically advise your clients about possible multiverses that they may be choosing to go into?
Um, I don't really have that conversation with all of my clients, because not all of them would appreciate that. A lot of them would think, "Oh my
Really?
God."
Well,
But
what about the
one,
ones with, because you said you have a lot of female clients and they come to you for relationship recommendations, like, should I marry him? Should I not marry him? Or should I should I move with him? Should I not move with him? You
and a lot
know?
about when to have children and stuff. But I do have some clients that, for instance, can go through different veils and go into different realities, and
Hmm.
for them, that is a real possibility. Um, and with them, they'll ask me sort of very sort of clear questions about what they want to know and whether something is safe or not, and I'll explore that with them. So um yeah, and some people who have remembered that they've come from Lyra or the Pleiades and stuff like that, we explore that with them as well. So
So
it really
your
depends
clients
on
that
who they are.
remember, right? So your clients that remember previous lives in different star systems, um, how do you explore that in their astrology charts for what they're going to do next in this life?
Well, I would look at what's coming, like what we do as astrologers, we compare the planets in the birth chart
Mm-hmm.
with where they are today, because the planets keep on moving, but our chart kind of looks the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it's like a snapshot of the stars. And when we have a look at your chart, I can show you where your birth planets are, and then where the planets are around the outside, and where the planets are in relationship to your birth charts. It gives astrologers a really big clue as to what's coming up, and what those phases mean, because there are planetary cycles that repeat themselves again and again and again, and they just form beautiful sacred geometric patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And we are just in like this vortex of cosmic life. We are just patterns. All we are just repeating patterns.
Or
And so
Mandelbrot sets.
yeah, so we all I'm doing really is cracking their cosmic code,
Yeah.
and trying to understand it, and using what is coming up for them, and trying to encourage them to make the best of it. Like, for instance, if you know that you're going to get flooded, um, you might build a moat around your house, or a
Mm-hmm.
little ditch, so that your
Yeah.
house doesn't flood, and you've got this water and it soaks away. But if you know ahead of time, say like 2 years ahead of time, you can
Mm-hmm.
build a, a ditch, and you can move it to one side and plant some trees that grow really, really well in water. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if
Soak it
you
up.
know ahead by like 10 years, you could think, okay, well, what grows really well in water? What can I sell that grows in water, in those 10 years? So you could actually
Mm-hmm.
plan it. You could plant your plantation and get ready for that flow of water.
Blueberries.
Yeah, exactly. Blueberries would be good. So that's what I'm doing with my clients. If I can see
Mm.
that there's this kind of Cinderella moment where something amazing is happening, I'll prepare them for it. But likewise, we all experience certain things. All of us humans, we all have a Saturn returns at
Mm-hmm.
29 and 58. We all have Chiron returns at 51. We all have certain things that happen to all of us at roughly the same age.
Mhm.
And when these rites of passage cycles occur, there are very similar themes, and you can see them coming a mile off. And we go through quite a few in our 40s, and it's a process of preparing us. I've just been through a lot of them.
What happens in your 40s? I'm in my 40s too. What happens?
You're coming up to a couple of them, and so I'll
Oh,
tell you about them if you want
okay,
to know.
a little bit.
But you know, as you prepare for them, you can, like, if you know that the difficult stuff that's coming up, you can relax the way you're thinking about your life. So for instance,
Mhm.
if you know that you might be like Saturn returns are about taking on too much responsibility,
Mm.
uh, you want to make sure you have every resource in place before that cycle occurs, because it will
Mhm.
cripple you. You know, you need to
Mhm.
have savings, you need to have your health checked out. So your habit of going to the doctor once a year is very helpful if you're coming up for a Saturn return, because
Mm.
you know exactly what's going on. You can prepare for it. So that's what I'm doing, really.
Yeah. Can you briefly explain what are the typical cycles when somebody's in, let's say, the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s?
Sure. 20s, you're going through cycles of rebellion, and and also cycles of proving who you are. You know, the
Mm.
main objectives of your 20s is to say, this is who I am, this is who I am, this is who I am. Look at me, this is who I am. Because, you know, in your teens, you're kind of wanting to be expressed, but you're being held back by your parents or society, and you're
Mm.
told you how to. So in your 20s, most people go to prove who they are. And
Mm.
then at 29 comes the Saturn return. And that's when we get this aspect, this thing that happens to all of us, where we realize that the identity we've built for ourselves doesn't serve us, or is
Mm.
holding us back, or making us feel kind of ill or unhappy. We're in the wrong relationships, we're in the wrong
Right.
jobs, studied the wrong thing. And then our 30s is mainly about rebalancing all the 20s. So it's
Okay.
about realizing that actually, yes, we can create our future. And actually we realize that it's dangerous to be so involved in our identities. So I see a lot of the 30s
Mm-hmm.
is being about moving on without being so identified with who we are, or
Yeah.
who we are. Come to
Yeah.
rephrase it. And then I really see in our 40s, we start to want to be more purposeful. So we want to
Mm.
see that our energies are being used by the world, because we realize that our impact, you know, whilst most of us will live for a really long time beyond our 40s, lots of people still consider it to be around midlife. I mean, I don't. I'm still like kicking it down the lane, you know. But you know, it seems to be a bit of a watershed moment. Apparently lots of people in the world actually do die in their 40s, you know, if they don't
Okay.
have great sanitation and stuff. Lots of people don't get beyond, you know, where I am right now.
Mm.
So the 40s is also recognizing that we have less in common with the 20-year-olds than we realized. And we might actually have more in common with people that are a bit older than us. So we start to see the sense. I think in our 40s, we start to listen to our elders, which we could have actually afforded to do when we were much younger. But
Save yourself the hard knocks.
yeah. And then
And
in
what about the 50s?
the 50s, I really see as people could go two ways. People look for more comfort. And I think we should always be looking for comfort too. But in our 50s, I also see that a lot of people want to become elders, and they're actually
Mm.
thinking about how to give back, and less about striving, but more about experiencing and enjoying. Um, and then slowly, I think we're just evolving into more and more reason.
Mm.
It's interesting as you look at the body and how the body works. You
Mm.
know, when we're full of vitality, it's all about me, and then as our vitality seems to be slipping away, we're more about everyone else. It's almost like the less firm and
Right.
rigid our frame is, the more porous. Maybe, I don't know if our boundaries expand. I don't really
Mm.
know.
Or
Um,
maybe, yeah. Mm. Yeah. Growth.
our personalities have to be a bit more well-rounded, don't they?
Mm.
We have to be nice. We have to be nicer, because you know,
Yeah.
people might not like our bodies so much, you know.
Yeah. Well, that
Who
goes
knows?
into my next question, Louisa, because there is a surge of um, young children coming in with much older personas
Oh yeah.
and much more kind of like that wise kid, that just gets along with everybody else at the grandparents' nursing home. They're telling stories and all that. So, and this is becoming very common day. I see it quite when you know what you're looking for. I see it quite often. So
Yeah.
you and I are both what they call metaphysical moms.
Yeah.
Mums. So I bring this up because I get clients who have high vibe children with unique sixth senses that can scare them,
Yeah.
themselves and their parents and family. So what does astrology say about why these old soul children pick out the parents that they have prior to being born? Is there like a certain like reason that they pick them out for whatever they pick them out for?
Oh, I don't know if astrology says why, but I can always see the connection. So I think a lot of um, first generation indigos, for instance, have found themselves in families that don't understand them. And I think that's why the indigo generations um, often have had a lot more sort of aggression or rebellion. They've had to be quite rebellious because they've had to find their own way
Mm-hmm.
against the popular opinions. They've had
Mm-hmm.
to be quite strong. I see a lot of children that come in now are coming in under the guise of sort of indigo parents. So I'm seeing a
Mm-hmm.
lot of rainbow children being born to parents that understand their skills. When you're looking in astrology at family dynamics,
Mm-hmm.
there are always really strong links between the mum and the
Really?
first, even in adopted families. So if a mum
Really?
adopts a child, they'll adopt a child and the astrology will really match because we find
Oh.
right resonance. But um, what you'll see with psychic children is a psychic mum or a psychic dad, and you'll
It's
see
true.
that, and they just repeat. Now the
Yeah.
patterns are the same across the board. So, for instance, in some families, it might be Uranus and the Moon might have a resonance, and the mum will have it, the first child will have it, maybe the third child, or all of them will. But everyone in the family will have an aspect like a relationship between the moon and Uranus,
Mm-hmm.
or the moon in particular is very strong because it's about our instincts, but it also shows our psychic energy. So
Mm-hmm.
Uranus is about channeling and very much about alternate realities and
Mm-hmm.
dimensions. So different planetary and star systems. Neptune is very much about merging and
Mm-hmm.
going through veils and
Right.
feeling everything, having no boundaries. And so I see the moon, Uranus, and Neptune as showing up really in the charts like that.
Wow.
All of my clients are older than me, and their children were possibly indigos.
Mm-hmm.
And they're a bit late in the day to do anything with their indigo children. They're rebuilding their
But
relationships,
they got grandkids.
but they have grandkids, and a lot of them have very intuitive grandchildren. And so a
Yeah.
lot of my telling me about their grandchildren right now,
Yeah.
which is really exciting, and in fact, when you look at the relationship between the grandmother and the grandchild, you can see the links.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, because I see that quite a bit. And the parents that have these children, um, you know, they'll get over the courageous parents, the ones that have a backbone, will get over their I seriously, there's not a
Yeah.
lot of parents that have a backbone for these kind of children. That's why they, usually pick the mother that is really has a lot of strength inside her because she needs to she's going to need that for these kids.
Yeah.
Because they will challenge you, but just like a diamond in the rough, it can be rewarding, but it's gonna take some refinement.
Yeah.
So, anyways, but the abilities of some of these kids are so unique that they don't even know what they're working with, and I get
Yeah.
these quite a bit
What
from
kind of
different parents.
abilities are you seeing in these children?
Oh,
Are you
they just
hearing?
automatically know your Akashic records. They don't even
Wow.
need astrology. They don't need hypnosis. They don't need meditation. All those different consciousness tools and modalities, they don't even need it. They just go, here it is. They don't
Like
have,
filing cabinet in their mind, and they just
yeah, they just
like a
already, yeah. So the challenge is to teach them about manners and respect
Yeah.
Don't just tell everybody everything.
Yeah, because
Um,
it's really hard for them because, we're so slow in comparison to them.
yeah. Boundaries is a big issue. Boundaries, because not everybody wants to hear it, wants you to know it. Boundaries is very, very big. And a big lesson is not just boundaries, respectful boundaries, but
Yeah.
discernment.
Mm.
Discernment, knowing when to offer assistance, knowing when to let people walk their walk, knowing when you may be taken advantage of or not.
Mm.
And not just boundaries with people physically, but boundaries with the spirit world.
Yes.
So
Love.
boundaries and discernment are the two top things that I typically talk to the parents of these children about, because it's just a new way of, it's in Buddhism, we call it spiritual etiquette. And in Buddhism, when you have one of these children, they typically we send them into the monasteries and be like, hey, help them out. So they can be conscious and learn how to deal with their abilities. But as
Yeah.
everybody starts raising their frequency, it will just naturally happen as part of their spiritual evolution and
Yeah.
their children's as well.
And the more people that awaken and evolve, the more other people are going to awaken and evolve, even people that aren't expecting to. It's creating
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's called simple physics, everyone. When you have a high energy individual, if you don't want to be affected by that consciousness love bug, stay away from that person, because the minute you get into the aura field, they're going to clean up your aura field. And you're like, why are all my bad stuff coming up for me to address?
It's funny because I went to live in Bali about 11 years ago, straight from the UK. And the UK is a place with a lot of density. I mean, there's some light places in there, but
Hmm.
very, very dense around London. It's very
Hmm.
exciting. There's some real density. And going from London and like landing myself in Bali for a few months, after a few months, I felt exhausted because
Yeah.
the energy of it is actually a bit like being in cotton wool. It felt like I was
Yeah.
floating in a cloud most of the time. And within a few weeks, I started to get very conscious of darkness and discomfort. And I started to feel kind of really ill all the time. And I wasn't ill, but it was just my sick thoughts I'd had in the past. Everything was just like coming out of me. And then I was talking to people, and a lot of people do naturally, if they go to live in a place like that, they naturally clear off after a few weeks because
Hmm.
it's too intense. And I stayed there for about 9 months. And when I came back, I felt so fantastic. One of
Hmm.
the things I really put down to was like singing in Sanskrit. So when you were talking about the word bood, I was loving the fact that, it's Sanskrit, because there's something very clean and cleansing about that language.
Hmm.
But according to the place you go to, it either brings your body up or it brings you down. When I got back to Heathrow in England, in London, it felt like there were knives pointed at me. Like the
Hmm.
energy is really
Hmm.
jagged. It's really
Yeah.
horrible. Um, and so one of the things we like about being in Portugal is we're living in central Portugal, and it's just hills. It's beautiful hills and
Hmm.
lake beaches and things like that. We're so steeped in nature, and it's
Hmm.
really not densely populated. And so
Do you live
even
by
for
the mountains? Do you live by the mountains or by the
well,
ocean where it kind of converges?
it's all mountains really in
Yeah.
Portugal.
Oh,
And we're
yeah,
not
that's true.
far from the sea. We could drive to the sea in about 40 minutes, but
Hmm.
we're more inland. But it's really kind of a nurturing place. It feels very healing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and very old. It's got a lot of respect. And the mentality here is it's almost like being 30 years back, but in the UK. It
Yeah,
feels
well,
like
different locations will have different resonance and energy. So there's always that conversation. Do you take a high vibe person who has a very high calibrating Merkaba and energy field and put them in a dense place and they'll get drained by
no.
everybody else? Or do you put them into a relatively high place and they just amplify that spot? So there's always that conversation, what to do. But a lot of high vibe individuals typically are attracted, get born into, or migrate to portal points within Earth's Merkaba.
Mm.
So, but yeah, and Portugal is on one. I actually live 5 minutes from another portal point. It's
Where's,
very
where's,
normal.
where's the Porter Point in Portugal?
I live in Seattle, Washington, but I live 20 miles north of it in a small island. It's kind of by the San Juan Islands.
Mhm.
And a lot of my clients will come to me because they saw a UFO around the same area. I'm like, oh, that's where the border point
Yeah.
is, and they're like, it's right by the house. I'm like, I know. I'm like, oh. So, anyways, it's a totally different conversation. But a lot of high vibe individuals live on Earth's grid points,
Well,
and that's
it's
what.
funny. It's really funny that you said that, because when I met my husband, and like we met and went on the first date, and then we've just stayed together ever since. So I'm still on my first date with him, like 10 years down the line.
That's so wonderful. I love that. I love that. Well,
But we
the
we got moved to a place where I saw 3 or 4 different sightings of UFOs. And when that place had finished with us, when we weren't supposed to be there anymore,
mhm,
it's like we got kicked out of that place. It's like all of a sudden opportunities came for us to live on this place. It made it so good that we had to live there, and then all
huh,
of a sudden all got shut down, and we always feel ourselves being moved. And ever since we've come to Portugal, we've been moving in and around the city of Tamar. And
mhm,
every now and again we move away, and then another offer comes up and we're moving
yeah,
back. We're just about to move closer back to it again. So sorry to
yeah.
interrupt.
No, 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 no. It's okay. Yeah, the universe is just kind of moving you from one active border point to another.
I think it is. I really think it is.
I just stay in I where I am is just it's a major border point. It's a constant one. It's a huge one. So it's never going to go anywhere. So but anyways, well, we can have that conversation. Everybody, I'm actually going to be on a Louisa's podcast and we could talk more about this
I'd love
wonderful topic on my book Buddhist Mandalas. But
that.
the 2021 Higher Self Expo is on July 17th through 18th, and it's a 24-hour expo featuring 33 speakers, including Louisa. So everyone go to higherselfexpo.com to sign up for that expo. Now, Louisa, what will you be presenting at this expo?
I'm going to do a talk called Astrology, where science and spirituality meet. So I'm just going to be talking about the history of astrology and exploring whether there is anything scientifically holding it up. Because there's a lot of people that say, no, it's rubbish. How can it possibly be true? But over, a lifetime of being interested with it, I've got so many correlations
Mhm.
and data. And every astrologer is like a walking filing cabinet of just causation and links. So I'm just going to be exploring some of the patterns that repeat so much that you have to ask yourself, is that coincidence or chance, or could it actually be part of a real live science? I mean, how can you actually test astrology scientifically, because it's about people, and people walk around all the time. We're not in a scientific test tube. We're not in
Right.
a science lab.
We're
And we're
constantly changing our perspective on things, so it changes the graph.
yeah, so we can't really examine it in a scientific way, using test tubes and petri dishes and stuff. But what we can do is use the science of correlation and statistics, and
Yeah,
that's actually, there's so much evidence. So I'm just going to do a talk around that,
that sounds like
and pull together. It's going to be fun for me to do as well. Actually, I'm looking forward
yeah,
to it.
that sounds like fun. And just for the audience members, just remember, in Buddhism, Vedic astrology is used by a lot of the practitioners of different schools of Buddhism. It comes off of Hinduism. And the 3 Buddhist monks that use Vedic astrology to track where in the Middle East, Yeshua ben Yosef, which the West calls Jesus, or Isa in Islam, was tracked using Vedic astrology. And that's where they found his parents, Joseph and Mary, to locate the child that they need to teach consciousness, metaphysics, and energy healing for, so that he can help raise the consciousness of humanity for all those lower vibe people, so they don't keep reincarnating into lower and lower cycles, get them up a little bit higher so they have the ability to actually go into the higher realms. So there is definitely a science, and in Asia, we completely recognize it as a tool. So
Mm.
you're going to actually be able to teach people these um, tools in a course offering that you're offering on your website. So let's finish off with a little mini reading that you give to people to give them an idea of what a session with you looks like. And this is a
Yeah.
mini 15-minute reading on myself.
Yeah.
And so she actually, I'm going to share my share screen. Oop. Okay, so do you see my chart?
Yes, I can see it. It's beautiful. What a lovely.
Okay.
So, what I'm going to do is describe it like a clock. Okay,
Mhm.
so I'll tell you where I'm looking because you're not going to see my mouse, are you? We'll only see
No.
your. So, what is it you want to know about? What would you like to know
Well,
about?
I mean, just let me know what the universe wants me to know.
Okay. Well, the first thing that, like, if I was to talk to somebody about what the universe wants them to know, if you have a look down at, say, 5 o'clock, can you see that that's perfect. Move slightly closer to where it says VERTE.
Yeah.
That's it. Perfect. That's a point in the chart that's calculated based on your time, place, and date of the birth. And it's called the vertex. And the vertex is known as being what the universe wants you to know about. And where the vertex is located, and in which sign it's located, it's in the sign of Scorpio. So if you see that blue M underneath
Mm-hmm.
it with the arrow, that's the sign of Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the 4th house. The vertex is describing what the universe is asking you to do. And so the first thing that I would say in answering what the universe wants you to do is it wants you to be doing powerful, transforming things from home. Absolutely powerful, transforming things from home. And it's in a
It's from
conjunction.
home because I'm that lazy. And I really want to travel all over the place.
That's the very first thing. And there's so much more to build into this. So the planet next to it that looks like a space invader. Can you
Mm-hmm.
see that?
Yeah.
That's Uranus, this one here. Sorry. It's next to where it says vertex.
Oh, this one?
To the right.
Oh, this one. Yeah. Okay.
Uranus. Uranus is very close to the vertex. The Uranus is about all things new, all things extraterrestrial, all things consciousness, all things channeled, all things non-attached, and things that come telepathically through the veils. So it's also because the vertex is so close to it, it's saying that you need to be doing something to do with higher consciousness, to do with raising consciousness, to do with creating shock in people, creating a surprise and a delight. And you're here as a catalyst, you're here as a pattern changer. So you're here to change the pattern of people's thinking, and to excite and delight them and get them thinking really deeply. It's in the sign of Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty deep. Scorpios love to go very, very deep. Now, the vertex is also, if you go completely opposite,
Right here.
yep, to see where it says Talon, that's actually
Uh-huh.
asteroid talent. It just doesn't put the T on the end.
Mm-hmm.
Now, asteroid talent shows us, I think, where talent is in the charts, and it shows up without fail. It really aligns to where we need to be. Now, yours is next to a little symbol that looks like a key that's on its side. Can you see that?
This one?
No, the other one on
This
to the
one?
left. That's it. That's Chiron. So I was talking about the wounded healer.
Mm-hmm.
Chiron, the wounded healer, is an asteroid. Now, your Chiron is really close to talent, showing that you have a really specific ability to heal people through massive trauma. And
Oh, yeah.
you're doing it in alignment with Uranus in opposition down below. So your skills are kind of shocking people into healing experiences, and creating a break in their timeline, or a break in their pattern, a break in their thinking,
That's
and
so
helping
true.
and helping people turn their hurt past into the vehicle for them to become self-aware, and helping them to awaken to the skills that they have. So you're helping them become their own guru. So you are literally turning those bits of coal into diamonds, but they're doing the work for themselves.
Oh, they're doing the work. Yeah. That
They're
is so
definitely.
true, because that's exactly what I do with a lot of my clients. I ask them, what, all right, well, if the universe sends you to me, I'm not going to sugarcoat or anything. I'm just going to pull the Band-Aid off and let's get to the bottom of this, clean this up and get you on your way. I don't have time or patience or energy for the 3D BS. Okay, just throw that to the side and let's move on to the 5D. So
Well,
that's totally true.
that's really shown by the fact there's a big, thick red line connecting those two groups of planets. So they're in opposition. Like when they're
That's
180
funny.
degrees apart from each other, they're really challenging. You see, you've got quite a few sort of triangular blue shapes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that, huh?
Yeah, that's where you've got natural talents and where things are very, very easy and in flow. And then those thick red ones show where you're shocking and challenging. And so when it comes to healing, your talent for healing other people, it is activated through shock and through kind of waking people up, almost like you say, ripping the band-aid off. So that's awesome. So that would be the
Yeah,
first thing
that's
I would
true.
say. That's the first thing that I'd say, you know,
That is
what's
so
the universe
yeah.
looking.
That's so true because when I do hypnosis or when I do hypnosis with my clients, I go straight for the ego. Let's talk to the ego. Okay, let's talk to your abusive uncle that molested you. Let's talk to his higher self right now. And they're like, whoa, whoa, I'm like, let's talk to him right now. Let's talk to his higher self. And I talk to his higher self and I say, now you're going to go to yourself in the parallel timeline when you were molesting your niece, and you're going to talk to yourself right now and give him advice. So you could shock him out of his slumber and make him choose the higher timeline. And then, okay, and then let's go over and let's switch over and talk to the little girl that you molested. Let's give her some talk tracks so that she knows how to talk to you, your lower self that doesn't know any better, so she can shock the heck out of you so you stop what you're doing. Now let's go do those. I jump between people's consciousness all the time in their sessions. At the very end of it, it's like, I just had like a timeline lobotomy.
Yeah, that totally fits with, I mean, that fits with so much more in your chart. But what
That makes
amazes
sense.
is I've never heard of anyone really using hypnosis like that. Like when I've used hypnosis, yeah, we've gone on timelines and we might have assumed one character, but not like multiple in multiple.
Yeah,
That's
I learned it in Buddhism because hypnosis has been and NLP has been going on in Buddhism since
yeah,
Siddhartha passed. It's advanced Buddhism, and people don't really like to because they're not familiar. A lot of people are afraid of talking to the ego, but no, the ego is fine. There's nothing wrong with the ego. Talk to your ego. Give it some. It just needs some
bit of
training.
cussing.
Some training, and then
Yeah,
I'll even in the sessions, if they're afraid of specific ghosts that's
yeah,
haunting the home or whatever, I'll say, let's talk to that one right now. We'll talk to that one right now. And I go in and that being will come out. I'll talk to them. I'll give them a conversation about consciousness. I'll have them understand where their origins are. They'll go into the light and be like, thanks, Vaughn. I'm like, yeah, leave my person alone. And, I mean, I don't care who it is. In consciousness, I know everybody's origins and their source. I don't play the 3D games and the BS games. Just
yeah,
go to source, connect to the crystalline light, and get better experiences for yourself. I'll even talk to the past life of the client and talk to the higher self in the past life, and
yeah.
coach them to choose better options. So everybody gets psychological timeline shock therapy from Vaughn.
I love that. I really, really love that. Now,
Time
talking
for
about,
this stuff.
yeah, well, I mean, it's time for us all to wake up, isn't it? So it's
Yeah,
great. Um,
yeah, I love that. That's
talk,
funny.
talking about your emotional shock therapy that you give people. See, there's another like thick bands of lines, say from 2 o'clock to 7 or 8 o'clock. Okay,
This right here.
so you're at 2 o'clock, and see that diamond with a cross underneath it, just where your arrow is actually.
Yeah, right here.
It's
They're here. Yeah.
that's an asteroid called Pallas Athena, and Pallas Athena is about our ability to perceive structure and how to be strategic and how to be sort of unattached. And she's really awesome. She sees patterns everywhere. She's an investigator. She's the sort of like template of all patterns. And so she comes up in the sign of Aquarius, and yours is in the sign of Aquarius.
She must be dating the Manabrat set.
See,
the Manabrat set was a guy. That must be her boyfriend.
right. So see the yellow wavy lines next to her.
Yes.
That's the sign of Aquarius. So you've got your Pallas Athena in sign of Aquarius, loads of astrologers do. I do as well. And it really shows up in the charts of people who really love NLP and hypnosis and astrology. And any kind of system that allows you to look at patterns of thinking and see the patterns beyond life and see the cycles and break the patterns and have fun with it and stuff. Now, your Pallas Athena is cutting right across the chart, right across. So if you go down to approximately 7:30, there you go. So you've got the sun, which is a circle with a circle in. And then you've got Venus just above it, which is the circle with a cross underneath. And then you've got Jupiter that looks like a 4 with a curvy back. Perfect. So you've got this is a beautiful alignment, by the way. So you've got Venus to do with love and flow and abundance. You've got Jupiter to do with expansion and leadership and warmth and being being magnificent, basically being a bit of a celebrity. You've got the two of those together with the sun, which is your ego. And so you've got this beautiful...
I am a Leo.
Yes, and it is in the sign of Leo. All of that's in the sign of Leo. You are born with not a silver spoon in your mouth, but you're born with a really lucky disposition. You're born with a really loving, open, friendly, warm, lively, dramatic, and reverent as well, like a really sort of reverent personality, somebody who absolutely loves the joys of life. The sign of Leo is really full of warmth and drama and richness. And so you've got Venus is known as one of the luckiest. It's known as a benefic planet. It's advantageous. So is Jupiter, and you've got them both together with your sun. So you've got a very fortunate makeup in your chart. But they are. This is also in the second house to do with your resources. So you're probably very good at creating a business and attracting resources to you. So you're very resourceful. Even when you don't have anything, you can still find something. You can always find what you need, and you've got the faith to do that. Now, the interesting thing here is this is all about people's personal stories and people's personal identities that they hold on to. And it's right in opposition to Pallas Athena in Aquarius at 2:00. And so when you're working with people, you're helping them to step outside of their rich, colorful story about themselves and see the patterns beyond it, because you've had to do it with yourself. And sometimes you are walking in two lives as well. So you've got this very real life around you, very loving, warm and expansive and colorful life. And you also see the pattern behind it and live the pattern behind it. And so one of the challenges for you is to be able to live with both the dissociation and the association at the same time and enjoy it. So it's almost like life is pulling you in two directions, one to experience the really rich life, and then also to experience the detachment and the truth behind it, but be able to live with both of them in the current now. So it's quite a big challenge, because I've met quite a few awakened people who very much detach and find it very hard to re-engage. It's a real difficult thing to do.
Being multidimensional is the word.
Yes, there you go. So I can absolutely see your being multi-dimensionality going on in your chart. And this lovely triangle, this blue triangle in the middle is showing you. That's it. Perfect. Now the one that looks like a question mark right at the top, that's dwarf planet Ceres. That's about motherhood. And she's connected beautifully to Neptune, which is about 4:00 to your right. That looks like a trident. So if you go to 4:00 on a clock face.
Here. Right here.
There's Neptune. He's the higher harmonic of Venus. So it's unconditional love and spirituality. So your unconditional love and spirituality is linked into motherhood in Aries, like Ceres is about. Your Ceres, where it is showing that you are a leader as a mum. So you're not only a loving mum, but you're leading the way. You're showing your kids how to be leaders in their own right. And you're leading them in consciousness and unconditional love. And then that triangle goes back to Jupiter and Venus. You're also teaching them how to be multidimensional and how to love joyously and fully.
Right. Well, creation within consciousness is the easiest way to create. So don't struggle too hard, people. Don't struggle too hard. Stop creating in 3D terms and linearity. You're working too hard. Okay, just go into the higher dimensions of consciousness and awareness. This
If
it's so much more easy. I'm
if I
lazy. I'm a lazy conscious manifester.
Well, I think you're very good at it. If I was to answer your question like fully, which is what does life have for me now? I would say all of those great things that you're already doing in your chart that I've identified, that shows your current working technology. But actually, where you're meant to be is using all of those skills in raising the children, using all of those
Mm,
skills in somehow creating not necessarily an academy, but some form of training for new souls, not just your own children, but other children, to help them with their multidimensional lives,
yeah.
and how to be leaders. And so you're raising the new leaders is what I'm seeing. I think that's what the universe wants you to do.
And it's lots of fun ways. Actually, I have a lot and it's growing. A lot of the followers of this podcast are very, they're like young adults and they're teenagers and they love these kind of like metaphysical far out concepts. And the fact that it's real makes them like love it even more. And a lot of them are healers. And so they think that sometimes I get these emails, sometimes like, oh, maybe I should do this healing modality, but I really love art. I really love video games. And I say, you know who the greatest healer in humanity is? Well, in modern humanity, the greatest healer of the 21st century is actually Walt Disney. Walt
Seriously?
Disney is the Walt Disney of Disneyland. Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse, the creator of that, Walt Disney is the greatest healer of the 21st century because his love for creating this magical world and kingdom and all the fantastic characters and so forth has brought so much joy and healing and comfort to children all over the world, to multiple generations. You have grandparents who still love the old stuff as well with the grandchildren that watches it, and it's expanded and grown in so many different ways. And it was all just through sharing story time in cartoons with children, and that was his focus, was just to share beautiful stories in cartoons in a fun way for children, and it has grown to really take over the whole world. And so if you really want healing, it could be anything that brings comfort and joy and uplifts people, and you can have lots of fun doing it. So Walt Disney is the number one healer in the 21st century.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's not always just,
Mm.
energy healing, all these, there's lots of ways to heal.
Well, definitely
So
telling good stories is definitely healing, isn't it? If you've got a good story
yeah,
that
yeah.
inspires, that's amazing.
Well,
Wow.
Louisa, thank you for offering your intuitive readings. Everyone, if you want to learn more about her courses that she's offering, and she's actually having plans to build out and offer more courses to take this to the next level, teach people all over the world. Or if you want your own reading, and this was a mini reading, you can go to her website, which is feelgoodastrology.com. And again, don't forget to check her out in her speaking engagement at the 2021 Higher Self Expo on July 17th through 18th. And their website again is higherselfexpo.com. So thank you kindly to our listeners for listening to another enlightening conversation. Until next time,
Thank you so much.
blessings.
Lots to you too, and to your audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Merkaba Chakras, where we talk Buddhism in the fifth dimension. For more information about today's guest, please go to the show description. For more information about Vaughn's metaphysical work, please go to merkabachakras.com. The views expressed today are for entertainment purposes and do not necessarily reflect the views of the host or replace any medical or legal advice. Don't forget to subscribe for more interviews about the fifth dimension. Until we meet again, blessings.